and welcome to the third TADSummit podcast. So I'm really pleased to introduce Arin from WebRTC.Ventures. So Arin, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Arin Sime, CEO and founder of WebRTC.Ventures. Yeah, really pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Alan and Gio. It's a pleasure to speak with both of you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. So this first part of the podcast is focused on innovation. And boy, do you do quite a lot of innovation. It's like in this industry, it's like if somebody's doing something in WebRTC, you sort of find Arin's hand in the background, helping, guiding them along. So maybe, because what I'm trying to do is, we all know each other, provide a little bit more sort of back to basics in terms of what does WebRTC.Ventures do?
Sure.
What are some of your customers? So we can understand the sort of projects you get up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great players and people who are much bigger thought leaders than myself in the WebRTC space. So, I don't want to take anything away from those people. But yeah, WebRTC.Ventures, we're a design and development agency. We specialize in building live video applications using the WebRTC standard. I do like to think that we are the leading integrator of WebRTC into applications, and that's kind of the niche that we're best known for. So, we don't take any credit for inventing WebRTC, but we'll take lots of credit for helping people integrate it into their applications and bringing our expertise across lots of different clients and use cases into custom built WebRTC applications. We've been doing that since 2015. So the company actually I founded in 2010. The parent company, the legal name is Agility Feed, and we have a part of the company that's staff augmentation around development services in Latin America, primarily for clients in the US. And our team has always been very spread across North and South America. We've been doing remote work since long before it was popular. And that's part of what gave me the interest in WebRTC and kind of the incentive to explore this space. So, when we started, I was working with my business partner, David Alfaro in Costa Rica, and we were just building Ruby on Rails development teams for clients in the US. We were looking for a kind of another technical niche that we could go down and really specialize in beyond staffing. And I was at a HTML5 conference in San Francisco, and I saw a Google developer present on this new thing called WebRTC. And we had been building real-time applications with like data dashboards and data exchange, stuff like that. And so this kind of, real-time exchange of data was something we were already interested in and had experience with. And then when I saw this presentation about, very early version of WebRTC and think, wow, this of course makes sense. Like, with the increase in broadband video, of course, video is going to become more popular, more necessary. I didn't see how far we would be by now in terms of remote work, but certainly for us as a company, we were already spread across, at least several countries at that point. We're over a dozen now. In our team. And so I was already very used to the idea of remote work and not having an office. And I love that aspect of working across cultures and across borders and with people around the world, clients and our team. And so for me, seeing the ability to build video directly into the browser and, with, in theory, just a few lines of JavaScript. It's a lot more complicated than that in reality, but that's what everybody says in their first blog post about it, right? To me, that was just incredibly powerful and immediately interesting. And I thought, this is what I want us to do as a development company. There's going to be space for someone to be experts at integrating this technology. And so that's basically what we started to do. Built the first couple of projects, built the first telehealth project with a startup in Australia, which has always been an area kind of a leader in interest in telehealth. Yep. This was back in the 2014 timeframe. 2013, 2014. And then in 2015, we officially launched the brand WebRTC.Ventures and started building these applications for our clients. And so now what we do is, we can do assessments and consulting around existing solutions, complete builds from ground up of custom solutions. We have the full project lifecycle of skills in our team from design to deployment. We can integrate open source or CPaaS WebRTC technologies into your existing application, work side by side with your team and be your video experts. Then we can also do testing and deployment and manage services around those applications in production. So we've got this whole range of services that the common thread through all of them is our expertise in building originally video applications, but as I'm sure we'll get to now, it's kind of expanded beyond that more too. You've more broader voice applications as well as conversational AI, and the intersection of that with these technologies that we've worked with is very fascinating to me right now, and something we'll be talking more about at TADSummit, and I'm sure in this conversation.
Yep. No. Now, with the Australia telehealth company, who was that? I'm trying to, because I've heard of
that company was called Wellbeing.
Wellbeing. Okay.
Yeah, they're not in operation now. But yeah, there's a number. I mean, I think I'm probably going to mispronounce, but I want to say Covio is maybe the most prominent telehealth, and they use WebRTC startup in Australia that I'm aware of now. Sylvia Pfeiffer, I believe, is the founder's name of that company, if I remember correctly. Australia is certainly an interesting, because of the geography of Australia.
It's a big
country with a few big cities, but kind of pretty spread out, and lots of rural areas that need telehealth in between. They were, I'm not a doctor. My knowledge of telehealth comes from working with the technology around it, but it's the natural geography and the way Australia is sort of laid out lends itself naturally to them being kind of a
and growing up as a kid, there was a Australian TV show called The Flying Doctors, and it was all dealing with the fact that to get medical support in remote areas. Now, of course, when you have telehealth, you can, you can't replace a real person, but for certain conditions and situations, at least you can do a triage.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really important part of telehealth. I think you can use it as a triage in many different scenarios now. And then there's also specific use cases where, dermatology is always a simple example that people give, because there's so much that a dermatologist can do purely over video.
Exactly.
But you can do triage in many different healthcare scenarios with telehealth, and we have in the U.S. we have plenty of rural areas where it's it's still helpful to have this, as well as you have underserved communities in the city. I mean, you think about any sort of in any sort of culture or environment, there's always people. It's hard to sort of take a half day off from work to go get checked out for something, and so having that option at least of telehealth, I think, is incredibly powerful, as well as things like post-surgery remote patient monitoring, follow-ups,
where you can just use the nurse
there's
just
all
to
sorts
check
of use
up.
cases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So moving to what you're going to be covering at TADSummit, but also some of the key trends you're seeing around here, because for me, I mean, when Google did some of its acquisitions, I was like, okay, they're making a move here, and they integrated those acquisitions together to create, we shouldn't say, well, Google does dominate. Let's face it, so those first moves, over a decade ago now, have created a technology platform that has its strengths and its weaknesses, like every technology platform out there. But for me, I see it as, it's there in the background, and I just see more and more communications migrating onto it away from the PSTN. So it's always in the background. We can say IP, it's the internet, yes, but on top of that stack are some very key technologies to which WebRTC is and will be into the future. So a long rambling way of saying, what are some of the trends you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, I think, I've always been interested since it's interesting when you're an early mover in a space, you tend to think earlier than other people that, okay, we've reached the point where this is ubiquitous and simple and anybody can do it. And then you realize, no, that's really not true. That's just sort of, we've been doing this for a long time. And so it starts to feel that way to you. But for many, many other people in large organizations, they're still seeing this for the first time, right? So there's still plenty of companies that even now are really starting to just think about using WebRTC for the first time, and maybe they don't even know that term for it. They just, they just know that they need video and remote work processes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there are definitely still individuals and sectors where this is new, but I think, when you look at kind of the space as a whole and the number of providers and technologies around it, it's matured tremendously, right? It's, it just became a 1.0 standard in the last 2 years. I forget exactly when, but but still relatively recent considering the tech, the initial 0 point standards of it are a decade old at this point. Over a decade. So the technology's matured a lot since then, right? But they're still interesting, especially when you look at like in interactive broadcasting and real-time broadcasting scenarios, companies still innovating technically around the video itself, because WebRTC was originally designed for this really cool but limited use case of peer-to-peer connections with nobody in between except some handshakes to set up the connection, right?
Exactly.
And that works great for, say, up to really about a conversation like this. 3 people is really most of the time you don't want to go more than 3 people in a conversation in that true peer-to-peer mode and have any reliability. So very quickly you get into scenarios of having media servers in the middle. So things like Janice, Lorenzo will be at TADSummit, right? So having media servers in the middle that help you scale to not only larger group chats or integrate with telephony systems or broadcasting, or just lots of ways you can integrate through that media server. Anytime you're integrating something, you pretty much need a media server involved. But still, a lot of that has become, I still don't think it's commoditized. I've wondered that at times, but I think it has definitely matured tremendously. So for those on the cutting edge, there's still challenges in building and scaling your video application, but people are also going beyond just video, right?
Exactly.
I think it's no longer innovative to just say we built video chat into our website. Done. That by itself is no longer innovative. It's not necessarily easy, but it is not as innovative. So it's what is interesting and what is the bleeding edge now in this is, what do you integrate with that, right? And that's where AI starts to come into the picture, right? You can certainly, even before that, you've got integrations between voice and like call centers and how to, those sorts of technical integrations. But again, those are all very feasible, and there's lots of different ways you can do that now. But what's interesting when you start integrating AI into it, and the first space where people started doing that, where we've been doing that with our clients, is to do call transcription, right? So, we're doing recording of this call for this conversation for a podcast. Alan's going to go write a summary of this perhaps. And if he had a transcript that was spit out by the tool at the end of the recording, that's going to really help him write that summary of our conversation, right? So, that's a great initial use case for AI, but it's going beyond that now in the contact center. Then sort of the next step was, well, how can we do sentiment analysis around this conversation? At who's dominating? Right?
That's it.
Am I talking too much as the contact center agent, which I probably would be? Should I be listening more? What's the sentiment going up and down of the person that I'm speaking with, right? So there's still, the basics of that sentiment analysis is definitely important in like the contact center type of situation. And there are a number of ways that you can get sort of the initial reads on that. Platforms like Symbol AI we work with will provide that sort of information to you. But then there's also people starting to look at, okay, how can we aggregate that information across lots of conversations so that not just, how's our individual conversation going, but that manager of a contact center looking across 1,000 conversations in parallel. Are we seeing an uptick in angry customers? What's going on? What's causing that?
That's
right?
It.
So being able to see trends across conversations in real time. That's sort of the next scale of AI being built into this. And then sort of the next step that we're getting into more and more now is the integration of conversational AI and chatbots with that. And that's a really interesting space to me as well, to think about, how chatbots work in a contact center situation, and when do you transition from a chatbot to a human agent?
Yeah.
How do you handle that transition? That's one area where our communications app expertise comes in.
Oh, okay.
And, so having a very seamless flow through all of that is something that's
Exactly.
really
So it's
interesting to
almost
me.
like pre-filtering. So you try to all the automated dumb questions. It's almost like, look,
Yeah.
check our FAQ. Nobody checks the FAQ. So it's a way
Right.
of providing an interactive FAQ so you can get rid of the obvious stuff immediately. Look, here's our opening and closing time. Thank you and goodbye.
Right, exactly. And the first chatbots, that's all they did was point you to the FAQ, right?
Yeah.
The first
Useless.
chatbots, their level of intelligence was, you would say, how do I cancel my order?
Yeah.
And it would give you a link to an FAQ page entitled "How do I cancel my order?" Right?
Yes.
And that was the level of sophistication. But now they're obviously improving a lot, and the conversational aspect of conversational AI has really come into play in advancing.
Yeah. Just quickly on the analysis of the conversations, because well, I was actually on a call this morning at 7, and I get the summary of the call, and then I took one action, and then there's like 14 actions. Wow. And these were the discussion points, and I sort of go, well, yeah, but those three, there's still a big gap, I feel, in the summarization.
Yeah, for sure. It's getting there, right? I mean, I have a couple of podcasts, too. I have one called the Scaling Tech Podcast,
Yes,
and we do interviews with authors and stuff around that. And then also have WebRTC Live, which is a video webinar series podcast specifically dedicated to WebRTC, right? In that Scaling Tech podcast, I use an AI service now to give me a transcription of the conversation afterwards, because we do, like, for SEO and just readability, right? We always do show notes for every episode, right? And it's really helpful to me, because when we were first recording them, I had to go back and listen to the full hour conversation with my guest and take notes and write the show notes by myself, right? And like most people, the last thing I want to do is listen to my own voice for an hour. I'll make you listen to my voice for an hour. I don't mind talking. I just don't want to listen to myself, right? I have that hang up that most people do, right? So even if the transcript that AI service gives me is not perfect, the great thing is now when I'm writing those summaries, I can use that as a starting point. It'll give me auto chapters in it. The service that I've been using for that is
which service is
it? Assembly AI has a beta service out now called, and their LLM is called Lemur, LEMUR. And so that will do transcription and auto chapters in it.
Gotcha.
And you can upload it. What's nice about that one, compared to others I've used, is it will go direct from an audio file and give you summaries from that. And like, you can't just give an audio file to ChatGPT right now. You could take a transcript from something else, give it to ChatGPT, and have it clean it up, perhaps, but it won't take audio as an input.
Understood.
So this one will, and but it's chapters and summaries, not perfect, but it's good enough that now I can write those show notes in a lot less time without having to listen to myself for an hour, by improving what it gave me, right? So
cool.
I think in most aspects of AI right now, we're the state of the technology is that it is a big assist to us as humans, but in rare cases is it truly replacing us.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's cool. So I'll check that one out, because I've been so on some of the tools. I sort of I sort of look at net. Okay, there is a small benefit, but I'll check that one out for sure. Now, one of the other things is because you provide all these integration services, you have a massive pipeline of innovators you work with. So what are you seeing of interesting companies that could be looking to raise cash, for going from seed, or basically for growth?
Sure. So I despite WebRTC.Ventures, Ventures being in our domain name for the site, we're not investors ourselves. I had a little bit of that idea when I first started it, that we would be both developers and we would invest in some of our clients as well. But I quickly discovered that's not really my personal forte. I don't do investment at this point. So that disclaimer is to say that, I'm not an investment expert, and I try to stay out of most of those details with our clients, but definitely we see interesting work going on. I mean, one company we're working with now that I know is looking to raise funds and is in an interesting space, I think, is WarpMe.io. And we've built a prototype for them for integrating video chat into like financial advisors and banks, and kind of targeting smaller markets for that, I believe.
Okay.
They're definitely an interesting company, and the founder there, David Patton, has a really strong vision for how he wants to build this in, and have those call for like video sales and customer service around banks, credit unions, and mortgage lenders, right? To be able to do more of that remotely, and kind of as like a platform as a service to those institutions, and then white labeled through them.
Gotcha.
And we've got a really, I think a really clean, nice solution with him right now that gives you that, direct from the website transition into that financial advisor or the mortgage lender that you're working with.
Gotcha.
And then, the next step will be integrating more of those sorts of AI things around those conversations as well, right? And so I think that's an interesting space, because I think, like, say, credit unions, for example, I've run across a few people talking about that as a target market, because, a say like Bank of America, can sort of fund a custom solution to themselves, right, if they want that. But the University of Virginia Credit Union, near where I live, in Virginia, they're not going to fund that by themselves, right? But they would potentially, I don't know that they are, I'm not speaking for them, but credit unions like them would perhaps be interested in a solution that works across a lot of different credit unions, but is tied into them. But it's an industry that is, not super tech savvy by themselves. They're not going to be innovative around this, but they're certainly industry savvy, and savvy enough to realize that it provides a lot of value to their customers. Their customers want to be able to do it. I don't want to go into the credit union and talk about my personal financial details in the lobby as I had to before, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I would much rather do that from home in a more private setting.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And so go for it, Johnny.
No, I'm just curious. I'm fascinated by your company. I mean, obviously you founded a company in 2015, and you're very successful. I mean, my curiosity is, what's your vision for your company? Is it an exit? Is it where are you going, or you're just having fun?
I'm definitely having a lot of fun.
It seems to me like you're just having fun. Like, I don't even know why I'm even like, okay, this guy's having fun. Doesn't look like it seems like you're so passionate about what you're doing, and so successful, and so involved in your customer's journey that I mean, what's your company's path? Because that's pretty interesting. Just off the top of my head, that's curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, like any founder, I mean, I don't intend to work forever. So there's always a point where I'll be interested in an exit and the right type of partnership, or, rolling up into a larger services company. I mean, we're a services company, not a product company. So the exit path is different based on that. But, I think there's always, we're not in a rush to do anything. But there's always, in that longer term, I could imagine a larger services organization wanting to bring us in potentially to have this sort of expertise, this niche expertise that we've developed globally, or company that needs a sort of expertise around their own product development. There's certainly scenarios like that are typical sort of exit scenarios for a services company like us. You can always go the product spin-off part as well, but but I find personally, we've experimented with that avenue of kind of spinning off ideas of our own. But what's kind of going all the way back to when I was in electrical engineering school as an undergrad many years ago, before I learned any HTML. Well, I knew a little HTML before I learned any real web programming. Before even the internet boom of '99, when I jumped into internet development for the first time. Even before that, what it had always attracted me to engineering as a discipline in general was I just always have enjoyed being that person who, like, I have lots of ideas, but I love hearing someone say, I wish I could do this. I have an idea for doing this, but I don't know how. And I've always enjoyed being that person who could kind of raise their hand in the room and say, I know how to do that. I can help you do that.
You're basically having fun.
So in that sense, I love that aspect of it, and in that sense, I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, because like in messaging and CPaaS and the sector of telecom we're in, I mean, you just had companies that have lost $200 billion in market cap. You had companies trading at 20 times revenue like Twilio. They're trading at 3 times cash in the bank. I mean, yeah, since trading at under 1 time revenue, and a lot of companies that I talk to and I'm involved in missed the boat, quite frankly. I mean, I don't know your market or who your target acquisition is, but I mean, it just seems to me that it's not even something you're thinking about, which is fascinating to me, because I've never talked to a founder. I can see through you. I can see through your passion. It's just not where you're looking.
Right.
And that's a breath of fresh air.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm giving that impression, at least. But to be frank, I certainly
that's the impression you want to give. Trust me.
Right. I got 2 kids in college, though, so I think about finances.
Yeah,
it matters. But no, I mean, it's I won't name names in telling this story, but early when I was getting into the WebRTC space and in this industry, I spoke with a company, and we partner with a lot of these companies. And I was speaking with one of them and saying, hey, you're new to the space, you're offering a great like CPaaS API, but I think you need development partners, and we'd like to be your development partner. And we've been kind of like the first development integration partner for a lot of these platforms because of our longevity in the space. And that's kind of how, so I was having a conversation like that with one of these providers, and the person I was speaking with said, yeah, you're absolutely right. We do need somebody like you. Let's talk. Right. And that became a great relationship. But what was funny to me was, he was observing to me at one point about looking at things across the industry and how many of these companies, as you said, maybe end up losing $100 million, or they get bought and sold 5 times. And he said to me, he said, some days I think companies like yours are the only ones who are actually going to make money in this space, the services integrators, right? And, I appreciated that. That sounded pretty good to me. I mean, I hope they all make money, because I think the space is important and we need that.
Well, they're selling dreams. A lot of those companies they're selling dreams, and they're selling different multiples and losing money. Obviously, on your side of the business, on the services end, it's flipped back around in the investment community, where a company like yours right now, even though obviously interest rates are high, money's tight, but there's still trillions of dollars sitting on the sidelines. So people want to see companies that are profitable. They want to see companies with high margins and that are not burying marketing costs and COGS and doing all these different types of things with commodity-based pricing. Right. So just from the outsider looking at your company, I'm like, man, if I was him, I'd be looking to sell my business right now, because people want to see, well, do you make money? How do you make money? Where do you sit in your ecosystem? I mean, I view you as a PE firm coming in and saying, okay, let's pick this up. So just for me looking at it, I mean, I don't really see you as an acquisition for a strategic partner or a bigger org. I see you as something like, hey, let's pick this thing up. It's kicking off cash. It's kicking off margin. It's got longevity. We could turn around, buy this, and then flip it to a larger org. So if you can create a win-win for a PE, that's what they're looking for, especially in this environment. I mean, you had an IPO that just came out, Arm, and everybody's all excited about it. I was watching that guy Ken Griffin on TV. He can't wait to short it. But at the you're like, this is great. I'm going to short it in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I mean, the environment is really geared towards companies like yours, where nobody was probably looking at companies like yours during the pandemic. They were looking at like, where's the growth? Where's the revenue? Oh, we don't care that they're losing 100 million a month. They're growing, and then they're a software company. Oh, they're going to be, and so I think everything's come back to normal. And what we're doing at
no, I
TADSummit
can see
with
that.
Alan,
I mean,
yeah.
You can find me at WebRTC.Ventures. Feel free to reach out and make an offer.
Doesn't really work
But
that
no,
way.
I mean, it's
nobody's going to come to you.
right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the scenario you describe, I think, is certainly a realistic one too. I mean, it's it's an interesting space, but like you said, like you detected in me, I mean, I have the passion for these solutions. I love learning about these technologies. I love working in this space and the people that we work with. So, I think it's a good ride to stay on for a long time, in my opinion. But there's also interesting paths where, maybe somebody else comes in and helps take it to a different level or a different perspective.
I think your time,
I get to keep doing the fun stuff
right now. Your time is right now. I mean, you got all these PE guys that raised large funds, and they got to deploy that money, and they don't know where to deploy it. So they're looking for companies that they can at least, because they don't care where they put the money. At these PEs, if they get 1 or 2 out of 10 hits, they cover everything else out. But they're a little bit more skeptical about something that, the whole pandemic, the bust and the Zooms and the Twilios and the who you name it, the Ring Centrals, and the value destruction is staggering. It's just staggering, and it's not coming back. Wall Street doesn't give you 2 chances. It just it doesn't work that way. Like, oh, we're going to come back. No, you're not. No, you're not. Anything's AI, unless we're AI now. Hey, AI. So it's a whole new vertical. I just fascinated by your passion, fascinated by what you're doing. And Alan was really excited about getting you on a call. I wanted to add a little value, and if you're interested in anything, let me know. I have a few friends, but other than that, that's really it. And if you hear about if you see any of these young companies or new companies, send them over, because what Alan are looking to do here is really bring capital to innovation, which is not really being done across telecom or technology and all these different sectors. I mean, a lot of these little companies that we've had on with 10 million in revenue, or Corel, with just starting out and needs $1 million in seed, there's no money out there for them right now. And there needs to be a place. So that's what we're trying to create. And we try to talk to a couple of different organizations, and they want to take people's funds and money. But meanwhile, they're all hurting right now. So you hear it, you got any young new stuff, pass it over to Alan's way. I think we're going to be doing this for a while.
Cool. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It definitely will. And there's definitely a need for it in the space. I think it's probably, good to see some, I'll call it rationality return to some investment, right? But I subscribe to Crunchbase. I see the pretty staggering change in investment numbers over the last year or two, and the redirection of it.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting time.
We're way over time, so I'm just going to draw it to a close. Again, thank you so much, Arin. Thank you so much, Johnny. Again,
pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
And, we'll speak to you soon at TADSummit in Paris. Looking forward to it.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to be part of it. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.